This hearing with the head of NPR, where Jim Jeffries uses objective evidence and data to reveal how she's trying to use language to spin reality.
And what's happening to your listeners over the last 5 years? Went up, down, or stayed the same?
It has gone up and down and is now going back up.
Listen to how she phrases that. It has gone up, down, and it's going back up. So she used the word up twice.
It has gone up and down and is now going back up.
Making it sound more optimistic than it actually was. It was way worse than that. This is the reality.
Well, I thought 5 years ago it was at 60 million. And you said in your opening statement, I think 43 million.
That's correct.
So 43 million now, and it was at 60 million 5 years ago. I can do some math. That looks like it went down.
And is now going back up.
It's now going back up?
Yes, it is.
How much has it went back up?
It's gone up a couple of millions over the past years.
So she doesn't even get precise. She says a couple of million, which sounds better than 2 million.
60 million to 41 million. Now you're back up to 43 million.
In a year's time, I'm very proud of that growth, sir.
Okay, you're proud of that growth. Okay.
So it goes down by 20 million, and you're optimistic, though, because it's going up now in the past year by 2 million. A couple million. What is a couple? I mean, that's about as close to not being a couple as you could possibly get without being one.
For 5 years, it's went down 18 million.
That is correct, sir.
Okay.
But that's how people use language to spin reality.
Should taxpayers subsidize NPR? 100 million goes to local stations, and then those local stations buy back programming and content from you. So that money goes to local stations, comes back to you.
I want to know, how much does she make in a year? I think that would be an interesting question to ask.
Gets routed through the local stations, all taxpayer money.
Those fees are actually based on private donations rather than on federal funding.
Well, we all know money's fungible, so some of it gets put in there.
Certainly, we could agree that money is fungible.
She's not even addressing what he just said. She's just agreeing that money is fungible. She's slick.
What? More money for less listeners. You fired the guy who pointed all this out, who said that you were so biased to the left that you lost listeners, which is exactly happening, and you're here maintaining that, you need to continue to get taxpayer money.
I don't know how anyone can make a logical case to justify with taxpayer dollars something that is so biased politically. Is that not the definition of government propaganda? And we have the evidence showing it.
Is NPR biased?
Congressman, I have never seen any instance of political bias determining editorial decisions. No.
Well, Ms. Burt...
The audience even laughs at this. It's like, no, we're not biased at all. It's like
political bias determining editorial decisions. No.
That fits into the sponsor of today's video, Ground News. Ground News is an app and website that lets you compare perspectives on any topic with full transparency on the political bias, financial incentives, and credibility behind the headlines. Whatever the debate shaping our lives is, the narratives we hear can shape what we think before we've even had a chance to question it. Critical thinking is all about thinking for oneself to navigate the stories and the patterns that make up the world. We see the differences in these stories through the lens of the media. Follow your favorite topics, or simply paste any article link in their search bar to find the full coverage on heated issues, and swipe between perspectives to form your own opinion based on all the facts. Ground News was designed to give you back control over your thoughts. That's why they created their blind spot feed, one of the most important things to check before trying to have constructive dialogue with people who think differently than you. Go to ground.news/Smith or scan the QR code on the screen. Viewers get the top tier Vantage plan for just $5 a month. So it's a handy tool. How best to navigate those stories, that's where Ground News comes in. I think a better strategy here would be to own up to examples, because this is all public. It's the radio. We've heard it.
NPR also promoted a book called In Defense of Looting. Do you think that that's an appropriate use of taxpayer dollars?
I'm unfamiliar with that book, sir, and I don't believe that was at my time at NPR.
You tweeted that you read that book, but do you think that that's an appropriate use of our tax dollars?
I think our tax dollars that we use are to be able to provide a wide range of perspectives.
I'll take that as a yes. You do believe that that's appropriate.
Oh, a wide range. Okay, but how many people with the different political perspective are working at NPR? Let's find out.
At NPR, he said he found 87 registered Democrats, 0 Republicans. Is that accurate?
We do not track the numbers or the voter registration, but I find that concerning.
Of course you haven't tracked it. That goes without saying. There are none. I'm sure you would rather just not even think about it.
87 to 0, and you're not biased.
I think that is concerning if those numbers are accurate.
It's concerning. I mean, it wasn't 44-43. It wasn't 60-27. It wasn't 70-17. It wasn't even 80-7. It was 87 Democrats, 0 Republicans, and you say NPR is not biased.
What this comes down to really is diversity of thought. And if you don't think there's a sore issue here, if you don't think there's a problem here with the diversity of thought, take a closer look.
It's interesting because a lot of your thinking, as expressed by your public statements, is deeply infused with economic and cultural Marxism.
It's more, what are the topics that you're covering? Are you making claims that are not grounded in objective truth?
Perhaps, for our most tricky disagreements, seeking the truth and seeking to convince others of the truth might not be the right place to start. In fact, our reverence for the truth might be a distraction that's getting in the way of finding common ground and getting things done.
There seems to be one side that believes fabric of reality is malleable or it's secondary to one's perception of reality.
The truth of the matter is very often, for many people, what happens when we merge facts about the world with our beliefs about the world. So we all have different truths.
Would you like to explain how fear of fatness is more harmful than actual fat? That's an editorial at NPR.
One's emotions, lived experience, your truth versus the truth.
Do you believe that America is addicted to white supremacy?
I believe that I tweeted that, and as I've said earlier, I believe much of my thinking has evolved over the last half decade.
Notice how she phrases that, half a decade, which sounds longer linguistically than 2020 or 5 years ago.
It has evolved. Why did you tweet that?
I don't recall the exact context, sir, so I wouldn't be able to say.
Okay.
5 years ago, you thought that?
You said, I grew up feeling superior. Ha, how white of me. Why did you tweet that?
I think I was probably reflecting on what it was to grow up in an environment where I had lots of advantages.
But you're associating that not with your socioeconomic advantages, which is what you're trying to frame it as now. You associated that in your tweet as white.
You tweeted, it's hard to be mad about protests in reference to the BLM protests, not prioritizing the private property of a system of oppression.
How is this not propaganda? And I say this with love in my heart. I grew up with NPR on in the background every night. My dad would listen to it.
On the Trump-Russia story, he wrote, at NPR, we hitched our wagon to Trump's most visible antagonist, Representative Adam Schiff. And he said they interviewed him 25 times. Is that accurate?
I was not there at the time, but those numbers sound accurate. Yes.
Those sound accurate. But
Car talk was cool. I get it. But we need to be fair and call this kind of thing out when we see it, because there's no excuse for this.